Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I am so excited to be here today with Tricia Murphy Madden. She's here to talk about homeroom fit and everything that she's been doing to collaborate with instructors and managers and club owners and presenters in the fitness industry to create an amazing product for participants during this crazy pandemic time. So we're focusing on collaboration today, specific to the fitness industry and honestly pretty specific to group fitness, because it's, as you guys know, it's my passion. But Tricia is an industry leader, and I'd love to introduce her first as we dive into the topics. But my name is Stacey Alden. This is my YouTube channel, and I'm excited to share our thoughts today with Tricia on collaboration in the fitness industry. So first is that I want us to understand again that competition isn't inherently bad. It can help make us better. But collaboration is bigger than just one person or business. And where Tricia has really shown that is by using her influence in the fitness industry as the National Education Director for Savier Fitness, the co-creator of Bar Above. Which is one of the largest bar education programs in the world. A former facility owner in Seattle, Washington, and currently leads fitness and management workshops worldwide and is one of the industry's leading presenters for IDEA. And this year was the biggest year ever. So amazing. To me, the biggest honor, I think, to win the IDEA Leader of the Year award this summer. And I felt for her and wanted to give her as much credit as I could because it was so different receiving that award. No big stage and big auditorium that we're so used to. She did it online and it was still just as special. I thought it was so awesome to see her do that. But once again, I am so grateful for Tricia's time, and I'm excited to talk about collaboration and what she's created. Homeroom Fit, it's basically, and definitely clarify, Tricia, if there's more to it, but it's this community of some of the world's best instructors who teach, and it's really a schedule that's built very well and easy for the consumer to navigate and find the class they want to teach or take, and then they can pay for the class, which is, of course, a win-win, helping support the instructor and helping the participant. But watching this community of instructors teach together and grow this platform together that she put together herself was something that really inspired me to ask her a lot of questions, because I see the best of the best collaborating, and I know that that's going to be huge for the future. So my first question for Tricia is, when the pandemic began, you acted quickly, and I'd love to hear, when it came to building homeroom or just collaboration that you do already in general, what kind of were the steps that you took to build that collaboration?
Oh gosh. Well, hey, thank you for having me. This is amazing. I love having these conversations, of course. When the pandemic hit, you're right here with me. We were shut down so early, and I was sitting on calls with industry leaders, and they're like, yeah, we're going to shut down for 2 weeks. And I'm like, you're going to be shut down a whole lot longer. And of course, unfortunately, my words were correct, which I didn't want them to be, but it was much longer than we thought. And what really happened in the beginning of this pandemic sort of was sparked by everybody at IDEA. So Amy Thompson and Rebecca Garrity and Ryan Halverson and all of us really tried to immediately get together and say, okay, let's partner up. So the leaders of Zumba, the leaders of Les Mills, the leaders of all sort of licensed programming, we started talking like, what are we going to do? How are we going to survive this? What are your ideas? What are your ideas? And we not only powwowed, but we also shared kind of think tank style what was working and what wasn't working. And we were able to say things in a group that we couldn't say publicly, like, hey, I'm really afraid this isn't going to work, and if it doesn't, our company crumbles. Or, hey, I'm really confident about this, but now people are pushing back at me. So those sort of think tank conversations really sparked something in our industry that I've never seen before, which is we started to work together. So instead of Zumba saying like, you know, Savier wants the education dollar, it was like, no, how do we support each other and all survive. And so that really started the whole conversation for me. And then it just quickly, it was almost like every day all of us were talking, going, okay, what are you doing and how can I help? And then it became instructors saying, what are you doing? How can I help? And all of a sudden, everyone was sharing ideas and everyone was sharing solutions and failures. And it was just one of those really great times in our industry's history. It was also one of the worst times in history because we were closing gyms at record speed. I mean, in Seattle, another gym closed, I think, this morning. So we're at 16 gyms closed in the Seattle area, or in the Pacific Northwest. And so it was both a time where we came together and also a time where we watched a lot of our dear friends lose their jobs and all that good stuff. So that all happened. And all of these educators that are on the Homeroom platform are, dear friends of mine that I've known for a million years. And, back in the days when we were, schlepping our wares to conferences 15 years ago and trying to make a buck, we are putting 4 into a hotel room and splitting one dinner. Like, these are the relationships that have lasted, and Homeroom really came out of that.
That is so true. It's this interesting, community of people who I think have built relationships over time, for sure. It's just that it took this, I think, struggle for all of us to probably have really honest and real conversations where I think the transparency came out. Yeah. Where before, we might have been like, oh, Zumba, we're doing fine. Everything's great. Everything's wonderful. And then the honesty, once we've been so honest with each other, and that I think has been, hopefully we have been, not everyone has, but I think the right transparency at the right time with the right people has helped build relationships that are going to last forever.
It has. I also think when people understand that they can take a risk and fail, you started this conversation, you started this platform interviewing people, and you didn't know, would 2 people start to listen? Would a lot of people start to listen? And a lot of people started to listen, but it wouldn't have mattered had it failed, and I've said that sort of about Homeroom from the beginning. Homeroom was about providing a solution for my friends, really, mm-hmm. and the gym I work at. And then if it failed, we've learned that failure isn't, in work, has nothing to do with us as humans. So if we start something and it fails, the biggest failure would be just not trying. So it's been kind of fun because I'm watching people try things they've never tried before without fear. I mean, not without fear, but relatively risk-free.
I think, when it becomes your only choice, you're like, well, I got to try it or I do nothing. So
Absolutely. I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur. I started my first business in high school and I was a marketing nerd, DECA was my claim to fame in high school, not far from your club. And I've always had that bug. I've always wanted to start things, but I've never had a good eye for just keeping money or being super greedy. And so my family always says, you're the right visionary, but in terms of making money, step back. You do the big stuff. Let us make the money. And so for me, starting something it's almost like it's ingrained in my blood to be an entrepreneur. And if my friends fail, I'd be happy to take, even if Homeroom crashes tomorrow, I'll take all of that heat. It doesn't bother me in a bit.
You're so brave. But it has done wonders, I think, just in the community it's built, and I think the ideas that it's helped spark other communities of instructors to build their, and that's really what I've been enjoying as a group fitness manager, is watching my team find their voice and their authenticity and their, like you said, bravery to try doing this virtual thing, which a lot of those presenters really hadn't done a lot of virtual before. And so even to watch them go through that transition has been entertaining, but very positive.
It's a huge teaching virtually is such a different experience, and it's hard because, in fact, I had a girl call me today who's not on my platform, but she called me and she said, can you just help me fill my classes? I'm showing up and 2 people are there. And I finally just said to her, I was like, it always starts with 2 people. It does when you're in think about when you add a new class on a schedule, oftentimes that first week is 4 people, and then it becomes 8, and then it becomes 12. And you have to do that on a whole new level virtually, because getting consumers' eyes on independent content is really hard. On the flip side, this gal said I had 2 people, and I go, okay, what are you charging? Just $10. I go, okay, well, you made $18 today in your living room. And she was like, well, that's true. And I go, well, how much do you make when you go to the club? 28. I go, well, how far is the drive? 45 minutes. You're winning with 2 people.
Yes.
Now,
so
of course,
true.
our egos, can slow that down, but it's hard for everybody. Even these big names. I mean, let me tell you, in the beginning, some of them were like, wait, I only have 1 person. What do I do? And the most important thing about if anybody's going to bring a team together and do this, the most important thing is that everyone on the team has to be interested in the success of the other people on the team. And so at the end of every class, you shouldn't be necessarily talking about your next class. You should be talking about the person next to you, because my consumer following is honestly who I teach at Denali Fitness in Seattle. It's pretty hard to expand past that virtually when Apple and Peloton and, all of these things are out there and the content's out there. The only way for me really to grow is through you. And so when you share an experience you have with me, or you share that you like my class with your consumer, and I do the same, that actually it's literally a multi-level marketing scam, right? Like,
exactly.
My customers have to become your customers, and it's a trickle down. And so for me, I would just say to any instructor, organization that wants to build their own homeroom, that's really the key. Is you can't bring on anybody that's not a team player. And I've already had to pull people from that site who are only interested in themselves. So if you're only interested in yourself, that's great. You should go run your own thing. But this is a collaborative. This is a marketplace for really, truly excellent education.
Exactly. And that's where I see this collaboration being so important right now. Is there may be these other brands, but that's what they have that can help them, is that variety of instructors. And that's where you can do your own thing on your own, but it's important for instructors to realize that there's also some things that they just don't do well. Like, I know I can't do everything well, and some people are going to hate my classes straight up. So you have to just own that. And like you said, team players, that's such a great point. In a collaboration, it has to be a 2-way street.
Yeah. Because I can't do the marketing that Apple's doing right now, or Peloton's doing right now. Like, there's no way. The marketing is word of mouth. And I think we just have to be willing to push our consumer towards each other and vice versa. And I think that's really a unique thing to our industry. And if you go back to when we were in person, that isn't what instructors typically do. They teach their class and they talk about the next time they're teaching their class. It's a rarity when you find an instructor who's like, thank you so much for taking my class today. Tomorrow I'll meet you back in here for yoga or a different class. And I'm hoping that translates, because actually for a health club, that could become a game changer if your truest fans were your peers.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's so good. And then so we kind of touched on it, but what have you seen so far as collaboration in the industry when it comes to instructors or gyms during this time? And if you can provide some examples of the positive outcomes you've seen. So a good example would be the increasing attendance by people talking about each other. But is there anything that you've really loved this, even if it's, whether it's informational support or emotional support, being able to connect?
Well, it's so interesting you ask that, because so in the bar category, you're a bar instructor, this, the bar category, there's so many leaders, and there's so much education, and there's so many partners. And what's so interesting is that a year ago, we went to the World Bar Summit, and we really started to make those connections. But, and actually it was just over a year ago that I was in New York City, and I went and met with Tanya, who owns Physique 57. And that was sort of the start to our relationship. But the truth is, during COVID, whether it's Fred and Liz Halfpap from New York, or Tanya and myself, and Tracy Mallett, like, we're all completely engaged together in terms of, if bar grows, we all grow. So me supporting Tracy Mallett means that more eyes are on bar, more people experience bar. That actually doesn't take away from Bar Above. And the same thing with Fred and Liz. I mean, I actually send their book as the recommended text for people going through our education. So in no way has anybody been harmed by all of us collaborating and working together and being part of one modality together. In fact, I would say bar is even bigger now in COVID than it was even 9 months ago. So I think that's a really good example. And bar was a very competitive category until recently. If you walked into a bar studio in New York, they'd say, "You teach bar? You can't come in and take a class." Like, you're going to copy their lunge, right? Like,
I know.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
I remember I've heard somebody say that the same thing kind of happened, like, with Soul Cycle. If they knew you were an instructor, they were like, "Get out." And I'm like, that's so sad, because we can learn so much from each other. And I
think that was a period of time when studios were on the rise, and those boutique businesses had really similar business models, and in some cases really similar modality and programming. So when Soul Cycle and Flywheel first broke up, I think there was a real clamor for that indoor cycling business, right? And Peloton, of course, came along and changed it again. But there was a real negative energy between, oh, you're with this group or you're with this group. And then it certainly became one of those things where instructors would take classes, and then, of course, they would teach they would, take notes from, somebody with a full class. Very smart, by the way. Like, you and I would tell them to do that. Like, take a million classes. You want to get good? Take a million classes and take away what you think is awesome. Don't worry about what you didn't like. Learn what you did. And I think that's even changing in that cycle community. So, I have just been at Soul Cycle many, many times. I've been with their head leader in New York City, Stacy, and she could not have been. After class, I'm in the locker room chatting with her, and she was going to present an idea last year. So I think we're really coming together in a way that's just couldn't be more incredible. And then I think you also want to look at, like, as good examples, there are independent instructors who immediately went to Instagram or went to these different places to teach their classes, and you see each other, you see them supporting each other and recommending each other's classes. And so I think this is all a very positive thing that we're all now working together. Now, what happens in 6 months? I don't know. I hope it just continues to grow, and we're one family still.
I know, me too. I do. I really hope that this collaborative attitude continues. I really do hope so, because I have to admit that when I do look at another, like, different education companies, I'm very concerned with, do they tend to kind of hoard their ideas or consider themselves at the top of the food chain, and that no one else is as good as them, or do they really try to learn from other companies and interact and collaborate? And those are almost always, hands down, you'll find the collaborative companies are the best ones to go with, because they're continuing to learn.
I can literally tell you that Petra, who runs Zumba, if I WhatsApp her a question, hey, I don't know what to do about this, she immediately gives me advice. She supports what we do. There is so much room for growth in our industry. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, if anything, COVID has just really shown that so few people have the opportunity to work out. You and I, as much as I love Pro Club and I love Denali, we teach and run programming in a very expensive community, right? And our customers can afford it and they pay dues. And even during close down, probably continuing to pay dues was not such a big deal. But what did we learn during COVID? I think we really learned that the vast majority of the population has not had the access, the affordable options for
Mm-hmm.
them to fall in love with fitness or
Yeah.
to participate in fitness. And, it trickles all the way down to childhood activity. I mean, I just paid again for my daughter's Seattle United soccer team and lacrosse. And when I look at that and I go, I can barely afford this right now during COVID, I'm like, how does
Mm-hmm.
someone who just their child wants to play a sport but they can't afford it, like
Mm-hmm.
it's it's really scary that kids
Mm-hmm.
don't have the opportunity to move free and that
Yeah.
he's offered twice a week. I mean, it's all so crazy,
Mm-hmm.
but I hope everybody's eyes are on that. And so if our industry was really smart, we would just continue down this path of supporting each other and then figuring out ways to do a lot for others as a whole industry, knock this stuff off.
Yeah.
If we can somehow scholarship people into getting certified, if we can go into communities that can't afford wellness for their students, if we can go into communities that can't serve people in a gym because they can't afford the gym dues, like what can we do
Mm-hmm.
as a community to reach more people? And I think
Yeah.
COVID has taught us that clearly. I always hear fitness people talk about, well, COVID's proven that you all need us. And I'm like,
Mm.
actually, COVID's proven that we're at fault. Like we've done a
Yes.
really terrible job making
Mm-hmm.
fitness fun, affordable, accessible, diverse, you name
Mm-hmm.
it. It's really been, honestly, it's been about that white upper class
Mm-hmm.
girl and guy. And
Mm-hmm.
that's all we've really, I mean, of course there's some diversity. I don't see it,
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
a lot of ways. So I just think we have a lot more to do. And if we're just constantly fighting over the same 15% of the population's dollars for fitness, it,
Yes.
it's going to go back to where it was a year ago.
Oh my gosh, that's so, so true. That should be our next talk.
Yes, yes.
Oh my gosh, we could get a whole panel up here.
I know, right? I know.
It's so true. It's so true. And that's where I really hope the fitness industry as a whole, like you said, it just can get out of its own way.
Yeah.
There's, yeah, we've really got to reinvent what it means to move and that it is about movement. It doesn't always have to be about exercise and how a bicep curl is a bicep curl and
Yeah.
everyone should be able to do that and do it with whoever they want to.
Right.
And we need to be okay with that.
And it's just so much about, do people feel good in their daily lives? And I think so many Americans, well, and abroad, I think so many people don't know what it feels like to really break a sweat and and let it be organic. Like whether it's
Mm-hmm.
a dance class or anything else. I just think there's nothing better than when you break that sweat and you like, it's like an endorphin high that no glass of wine, no cupcake, no
Yeah.
anything else can give you.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of us really get that gift. And I
Mm-hmm.
was really fortunate as a kid. My mom was actually quite poor, but she was able to get a trade in for me to dance. So my mom did a trade so that I could dance my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And had it not been for her wise exchange, I would have been without a sport, without
Yeah.
fitness. And I was just so blessed. But I just feel like so many kids haven't been given that gift of like that natural high you get when you're like, yeah,
Yes.
sweaty. And it doesn't have to be sport. I mean, that's the other thing is that
Yep.
I think these kids, they're at home, and how can we help kids enjoy sweating so that when they get older, they'll feel really good about it. And it doesn't have to come in soccer or basketball or any of those things.
So true. So true. And so good. I love speaking with you about all of these things. And I'm sure I will drag Tricia on here more and more as often as I can. And I am kind of creating a schedule just so everyone knows for 2021. I know it's the time of year, as we know in the fitness industry, that we're getting all these emails. What's the future hold? And now I can't help but laugh because I'm like, I read those emails in January of last year, and they honestly were completely wrong. Every single one of them.
Had we known what we were walking into, we might have called it a day. But we will be grateful for all of this. This is our industry will be grateful. What we won't be grateful for are the lost jobs and the lost clubs and the lost kids starving right now. I mean, those are the things that are going to be hard. But this time will change us, and we will grow. And if we don't, we'll fail. So we have two choices.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's as complicated as things are right now. We can really boil it down to that. And so however you can in the fitness industry, I hope this message speaks to you, and do go to homeroomfit.com and check out what Tricia has created and take a class and get moving and enjoy it, because the instructors there are teaching for the right reasons. They support each other. They're amazing. Jump into one of Tricia's classes. Give her a wave.
Can I say one thing too?
Yeah, of course.
One of the reasons we built Homeroom was to serve the instructors, but also to serve clubs. And so one of the things we did is we brought together this marketplace of instructors that will not draw customers away from you. So we have clubs now that are signing on, and their members, if they continue paying dues during, say, a shutdown, can take all the classes. And it's been kind of a fun thing to watch. We did a test run with Denali, and it's just been wildly successful because this team of instructors, as you know how to be professional and interactive, but recognize that their customer, that's that gym's customer, and they can help them keep their business afloat. So it's really been fun. So if anybody has interest in that, I'm happy to talk to them.
And honestly, that's the whole other layer of collaboration that I think is so great that has happened, because as you know, clubs are worried about memberships. That's the number one thing that's on their mind, especially if they were a member-based facility versus a studio where it was kind of pay as you go, and not being able to have those people in the four walls safely or legally is a huge challenge. And so I applaud the clubs that are still following protocol.
Yes.
But
there's a lot of clubs that aren't. They're like, you know what, I'm going to break the rules. And I know it's hard. And I, personally at this point think it's not the right decision. And I write an email almost daily to the governor, because I know what our gym looks like, and I know what masks looks like, and I know what the spacing looks like. And I'll tell you what, you're safer in our gym than you are at Trader Joe's or Nordstrom or Michael's or the gas station. And you're also there to get healthy. And these gyms can do it right. And they were. So it's just really disappointing that this slicing and dicing of our economy is happening in a way that really, these businesses are closing, and these are the businesses that could serve so many people. So I hope Washington opens back up. So sorry to those of you who aren't from Washington. That's what we're going through, but I'm fighting.
Exactly. And that's where I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I think clubs should think outside the box and contact Homeroom or contact wherever you can to get a hold of, because group fitness is the glue. Tricia and I know this, the stickiness, as Shannon Fable, one of our good friends, likes to say, that will hang on to your members. So it's an investment. Yeah.
They show up, they're doing it from their living rooms, and when they open back up, they'll be back too. So I totally agree. I think group fitness is community and connection, and I don't like to work out alone. I could do it. I have every piece of equipment in the world, but if I'm not with everybody on camera, I'm just, wearing my PJs and drinking LaCroix.
Totally. Yeah, and if you did it on your own, how many reps would you do? And how real would it be?
Probably not a lot. Probably not a lot. Well, thank you
No.
so much for having me. This was amazing.
Yeah, of course. And again, I would love to have you more often. And thank you, everyone who watched with us today or in the future if you watch this on the channel. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel too, so I can know if you're enjoying these videos. And then I'll throw the homeroomfit.com link in the comments, and I'll throw Tricia Murphy Madden's link to her website in the comments so that you can reach out to her and stay in touch with her and what she's up to, presenting and leading the industry like she always does.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This was a blast.
Of course. Thank you. Have a great day, guys.